What is your favorite word?
Can.
Can?
I like the positive attitude of it, like I can do this. Um, and likewise, I guess my least favorite word would be can't. People that already have in their mind that they can't do something. I really like the positive thinking.
What turns you off?
Probably along the same lines, negativity. Just that I like being around people who are happy and upbeat and I can do this. And negativity, I just don't want to be around that.
What sound or noise do you love?
Laughter.
Do you like to laugh a lot?
I like to laugh. I like being around people who laugh. And there's something that's just an automatic mood lifter when you hear people laughing. We have these ladies in the office that I don't know what goes on down there, but they're always laughing, and when you hear it, you can't help but smile too and be happy. So yeah, laughter.
What profession would you most like to do?
You know, honestly, I'm doing it. I always wanted to be in a profession where you help people because you get so much out of that. And education's a profession where you can help people, but yet there's still that positive atmosphere. There's that laughter. And I will also say that being around younger people helps keep you young. I know that sounds trite, but it gives you a younger perspective.
So do you think you're a really positive person?
I try to be a very positive person. I'm sure there's times that, you know, I can have a bad day or be grumpy, but I really try hard not to be, because you don't feel good when you are.
What profession would you not want to do?
Well, it's funny you mentioned that, because when I first started out, I thought, you know, I'd like to do something in the medical field. And I actually looked at going into physical therapy, and I also looked at becoming a vet. And I did an internship with a vet, and I just realized I cannot handle seeing people in pain, and I can't handle seeing animals in pain. And I think probably the very worst job that I could ever imagine would be either being being a pediatrician or a veterinarian, because they're in pain, they're unhappy, and yet they can't explain to you, and they won't understand you when you're trying to explain that you're trying to help them. And I just think that would be a terrible, terrible feeling, just because babies don't understand and animals don't understand. So I think those would be, I so admire people that do them. I mean, I am so impressed with those that do, but I could not do that.
If heaven exists, what would you like to hear God say when you arrive at the pearly gates?
Here's the horse you're going to ride for the rest of your life. You know, obviously I have a love of horses, and that would be good to know that, you know, in the afterlife I would have my steady Baylor there with me. But another thing that I think would be very cool is to be able to see family members, especially family members that I've heard so much about that passed away before I really had a chance to know them, or passed away before I was even born. And to know you might have that opportunity, that would be very cool too.
If you could meet one person, dead or alive, who would it be?
Ooh, that's a tough question. On a personal note, along that same line, you know, I've heard a lot about some of my great-grandparents and family members that I just, you know, obviously wasn't around to get to know, and that would be very cool. But then on a completely different note, I think it would be neat to meet one of our founding fathers, or George Washington, and say, okay, George, buddy George, if you could look into the future, you know, 200, 300 years, what do you see the United States of America looking like? And just, to me, it'd be very interesting to be able to share what the world is like now, and to see if people who founded our country had any idea, and if it's what they wanted. You just hear so much about relying on the Constitution, which obviously is very old, and is it still pertinent? I'd love to get their perspective on that.
Where were you born?
I was born right here in Chico, California at Inlow Hospital.
Have you lived here all your life?
No. My parents, well, my dad went to high school at Chico High and went to Chico State, but when my parents got married, I was born here in Chico, and then we moved to a little tiny lumber mill town called Johnsondale when I was 3. And then I came back when I was 18 to go to college.
What was it like growing up?
I had an awesome childhood. First of all, I have a very close-knit family. I have great parents, wonderful brother. But I was raised at 6,000 feet up in the Sierra Nevadas, a little town called Johnsondale. And we'd go to school Monday through Thursday during the winter, and then Friday was ski day, so we'd get to go ski. It was a small town between, when we first moved there, probably 1,500 people, and then as the lumber mill, started to go away, it got down to like 200 people. There were 3 people in my 8th grade graduating class, all girls. But the whole national forest is a backyard, and that's where I really got into riding horses. I'd take off on my horse and go right through the mountains. So it was a great place to grow up.
Have you always loved outdoor activities?
I have.
Like what?
I obviously like to ski, I like to hike, I like to ride my horses, go on walks with my dog, and most recently, my husband rides motorcycles, so I have no desire to have my own because I would probably do harm to myself. But I do enjoy just going out for a motorcycle ride as long as he's driving. And we'll go over to the coast occasionally or go out through the orchards or down by the river. And it's just another way to be outside and see things in a different perspective.
How long have you been riding horses?
Well, in my dreams, I've been riding horses as long as I can remember. My grandfather, again, I said I had a great family, awesome grandfather. He bought me my first horse when I was 6 and did a lot of, as I mentioned, riding in the mountains. And I've really had horses almost nonstop since then. When I first came to, well, I guess there was a break. When I first came to college, I brought my horse with me, and then I just couldn't, I couldn't find the time between work and school to get out and ride, so took it home. And then when I first started teaching and got my career going, I could hardly afford my own room and board, much less that of a horse. But since probably the last 20 years, I guess I've had horses.
What do you do with your horses? Do you like jump them or?
I feed them, I clean up after them, I fix the fences they knock down. No, I show horses, and my horses are quarter horses, and I do what's called all around, so I'll ride Western and do events that range from Western pleasure to trail to horsemanship and showmanship where you lead them, the events where you ride them. And then I also ride English, and the horse I have right now is a big 17-1 horse, so he's better at the English. And so I show equitation, which is where they judge how you ride, and I'll show English hunter under saddle where they judge the horse. And then yes, he's jumping now too, usually with me, but occasionally without.
How'd you get into showing?
I got started in showing originally through 4-H. So I joined 4-H, and I was doing the 4-H horse unit, and then they had little 4-H shows. And then here's an interesting twist. I was working, my mom had a young horse that she needed some help with, so she was going to a trainer. And the trainer asked me if I'd be interested in riding, I swear to you, he said horse, one of his horses at a show. And I'm, of course honored. I'm all of 9 years old. That'd be great, love to do it. And I got to the show, and it was actually a mule. So I went through a period of time, 4 or 5 years, where I showed mules. And then that, interestingly enough, got me into a little bit higher level. Went to the World Show for Mules. They have a World Show in Bishop for the mule shows. And then eventually started showing quarter horses. So from 4-H to mules to quarter horses, who knows what's next.
Do you think you'll continue to have horses and ride for the rest of your life?
I really don't see my life without them. I have my dogs, I love my dogs, but the horses are what keep me active and going places. I've seen a lot of things because of, having the horses or going to horse shows. Have a circle of friends that are very close because of the horses. So yeah, I see them in my life for a long time.
Where's the farthest you've had to travel for horse shows?
Columbus, Ohio. for the All-American Quarter Horse Congress. So went back to Ohio and showed my horse. And I hope to do it again sometime.
So what's the farthest you've ever been in the world?
Oh, Switzerland? Let's see, I've been to Switzerland, France, Italy, Spain, England, Mexico, Canada.
Are these all just for fun?
These are all just for fun. Oh, you know what? Nice call. I actually went to China for work.
Really?
Yeah, just 2 years ago. How could I forget that? Yes, so China's the furthest I've been. There you go.
What did you do in China?
The Chinese what for us is like the federal government. The Chinese federal government really wants to establish a relationship with the United States, mainly I think for trade, but very interested in having their students be exposed to American culture and to learn English. And the Chinese students, I didn't know this till I went, start taking English in kindergarten. And then likewise in Chico, because we have a lot of walnuts and almonds and rice, there's an interest on the behalf of farmers and others, I'm sure as well, for students to learn Chinese and have a knowledge of the Chinese culture for trade purposes. So the Chinese government through Chico State asked us to come and look at doing some partner schools and some partnership work, and we actually were able to get some Chinese teachers to come free of charge to work with students, and they were giving them basics in Chinese in kindergarten and first grade. So it's been a good partnership.
I hope that's 20 questions.